Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley, chairman of the Democratic Caucus. Congressman, thanks so much for being with her. Is Paul Ryan's commitment good enough for you that the Dreamers will be addressed?
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be with you as well. It hasn't been good enough yet. This has been a debate that's been going on for years now. Some would say it's decades, since 1986, quite frankly. And Paul Ryan has yet to put a single immigration bill on the floor since he's been Speaker of the House of Representatives. So we're still wait and see. It's a lot of lip service so far.
But Nancy Pelosi took the floor for more than 8 hours, a marathon, yesterday, and she says she will not vote for the budget deal because it does not include the Dreamers. What about you?
I have no intention of voting for this bill. I think this bill, not only because of the Dreamers, I think it falls short in aid to Puerto Rico and to the Virgin Islands, as well as other disaster relief. There's a lot of good in this bill as well, and I appreciate that, but from my perspective, it's a bridge too far. I do think, though, that Nancy Pelosi yesterday laid out the moral grounds as to why this is the civil rights and human rights issue of our day, as well as the economic issues. The folks who are in DACA are contributing mightily to our economy, and to deport them, or a million people, or a million plus people, would have a severe impact to the economy of the United States as well.
Is Pelosi whipping it? Or are the Democrats going to follow? Because with Mark Meadows and the Freedom Caucus all complaining about it from the right, they need Democratic votes for this to pass.
Well, it's a question of how many votes they're going to need, quite frankly. And I've heard upwards of 70 votes. What I would suggest is Nancy Pelosi is using her power of moral persuasion and suasion. She did it yesterday on the floor. She continues to speak to members. But I think members will do what's in the best interest of their constituency of the country as they see it. That's their charge as members of the House Democratic Caucus. I intend to vote no, and I'm talking to my colleagues and as to why I'm taking that position. And I think in the end, people will have to do what they think is best.
Do you think it's going to pass?
It remains to be seen. Hard to say at this point. I do think that if Republicans need as many votes as they indicate, I think it's going to have a rough road, quite frankly, in the way in which it's been packaged so far.
I was just talking to Joe Biden. We just played the interview, and he talked to the Democratic Caucus. You obviously were there and leading the charge yesterday. How would you characterize his appeal to Democrats who are divided? You've got progressives and middle-of-the-roaders and others who criticize the party for being too far to the right or too far to the left. How do you bridge those divides as you go into 2018?
What I think was great, Joe Biden could have been from my hometown of Woodside, Queens. And I often talk, Andrea, about two guys from Queens, the Queens that I grew up in, the Queens that Donald Trump grew up in. He grew up in a very isolated area, Jamaica Estates. I grew up in Woodside, a very open community. I think Joe Biden really symbolizes that. And what Joe talked about yesterday, are there differences in opinion on certain issues? Of course there are. Are we on the same exact page? Not always. But we are in the same chapter, and we are all in the same book. And I think that's what's important about Democrats. What divides us is nothing compared to what divides us from Republicans right now and Paul Ryan and his agenda. And certainly nothing that divides us more than this president. He's doing more to divide his own caucus, the Republican conference, as well as the House Democrats. He's trying to do that, and he's not going to be successful. What this country needs is balance, and that's what Democrats are going to be about bringing back in the 2018 elections, a better deal for the American people, better jobs, better wages, and a better future for this country.
Right now, the Dow, and there's been so much volatility, it's down more than 630 points. Just a few seconds. Does that weigh on you as you decide whether or not to vote for a budget? That the markets need some reassurance here?
I think at the end of the day, the Republicans control both the House and the Senate and the presidency. They overwhelmingly control the House of Representatives. If they cannot put a budget bill on the floor that can garner the support of the majority of their conference, that's their issue. It's not on Democrats. We don't control the House. We don't control what bill comes to the floor of the House of Representatives. Paul Ryan does. And it's incumbent upon him to put a bill on that his caucus can support. He has a rule that says a majority have to pass support a bill before bringing it to the floor. Our rule is if you want our votes, you have to get a majority of the minority, maybe. You know, two can play at that game. And I think at the end of the day, it's Paul Ryan's responsibility to get that bill passed.
Okay, Joe Crowley, thanks so much. And we're watching the Dow, which has fallen in the last hour precipitously.